Hi, I'm Rob the accountant. I like to help people build companies while finding solutions to whatever problems may come your way. Talk to me live on Twitch whenever I'm online. I wish I knew these days. Or watch the rerun on YouTube. Questions, ideas, whatever. Let's talk. How's everyone doing today? Recap, New York State, one of 50 states, decided to charge our president, the last president, he's still a president, and he elevated a misdemeanor into 34 business charges, while a couple weeks earlier, a store owner was charged with defending himself in a store where he was assaulted. They arrested the store owner, the same DA. So we're going to wait here. I'm going to cut off my mic, but leave the stream going. And I am here to comment on when the 45th president of the United States speaks. It's kind of interesting today that our governor has not come out and said anything. And I think we really should start asking ourselves as a nation, is this going to be the new norm? We don't like what the guy does in the office of presidency, and we're going to arrest him. Okay, here we go.
It's possible because some people are asking, hey, why now? Why not early?
Look at that, the media. Love the media. Always teasing us. But anyways, what are we going to do? So every time a governor gets replaced by the other side, we're going to go find charges. But who wants to live in a nation like this, people? Who wants to live where it's just trumped up charges, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, if a lawyer named Devonte, I think people remember him, was trying to extort a guy running for office, then you don't march the corrupt lawyer in prison in California with the person who received the $130,000. I think that would be Miss Daniels, right? She would be the one that got $130,000, right? And then his lawyer, what a rat, snakes him in his back, right? But he's the one that executed it all. But okay, so what? It's his money. And I don't think anyone can judge anybody's intent by their mindset. The reality is, on the day before the election with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, nobody in the world thought Donald Trump was going to win. Everything had been thrown out there. The Miss Daniels thing had been thrown out. The grab 'em, the entertainment TV thing had been dragged out. Everything had been dragged out. It was all out there, clear as day. I would actually surmise there was more out there about Trump than there was about Miss Clinton and Bill Clinton himself. So nobody thought Trump was going to win. And then he did. And then they bogged him down with a Russian investigation for 2 years. And I'm just saying, like, one more thing coming out wouldn't have changed the belief that everyone thought Trump was going to lose. Just because he came up from behind and, you know, defied the logic and the odds. You know, you shouldn't hate somebody. Normally, if you're a bookie or you're gambling and you defy the odds, you win big. So that's it. I've got nothing to say. I may comment a couple times through his speech, but I'm going to let the president speak. He deserves it. The indictment, everything in New York City. You know, it's funny, the mayor of New York City comes out and he makes some threats to Marjorie Taylor or something. I don't really like the lady. She's unfit to serve office. But he goes out and he says, if you come, we're gonna do our jobs. Okay, well, let's just do our jobs all the time. Like, again, nobody's explaining why they arrested that store owner 2 weeks ago who was trying to defend his family and do his job. And well, who cares what the outcome? When somebody has a grievous attack on you, what are you supposed to do? Well, you know, I know what they think they want everyone to do, but fundamentally, operationally, I don't think anybody's prepared to sit by. I think everybody wants to fight. I think everyone wants to live. Everyone wants to see another day. So I'm going to mic off, and we're going to wait for the 45th president of the United States to speak and look at the fact that a mayor from New York City, in similar fashion to Pete Buttigieg, is trying to take down the election prospects of a person that one party clearly seems to want to be their nominee. I'm Rob the Accountant. We'll talk about this as it moves forward. And free Trump. Free Trump. I shouldn't have to defend Trump, and I shouldn't have to ask anybody in the United States to not wish that anyone get persecuted with so many felonies. I had never imagined. Who knew that cheap gas would get you arrested? Cheap gas gets you arrested. So, folks, you have a choice. Next election, I'm going to be in the same choice. Chaos or confusion. Chaos or confusion. I'll take a little chaos because the chaos seems to want to at least turn the clock back here for us. And maybe that's what we need to think about, what we really want for our country and the economics. If your tax return was bigger this year, God bless you. It wasn't for a lot of people I know. So fundamentally, we need to ask ourselves what we want. I know there's so many people. You know, Trump always says a silent majority, and I know a lot of people prefer that to be some dog whistle. But there is a silent majority. It's the working majority. You know why they're silent? Because they're at work every day. You know why you don't hear from them? Because they're at work every day. You know why you don't hear from them? Because they're at work every day. They are the silent majority. So I never thought that was like a dog whistle or something, but I know other people inferred that to be that, but I wish Mr. Trump well. I'm embarrassed as a New Yorker. You know, I've never seen such uneven arms of justice. Justice clearly isn't blind. But I've been saying that forever. I think a lot of people have been saying justice isn't blind. People don't want to understand that until it affects them. And I don't care. You know, you can New York City. You can convict Trump 100 times, but you can't take away my right to vote for who I want. So do what you want. It doesn't change anything. So I'm Rob the Accountant. Let's see what our 45th President of the United States has to say.
JB back with you here in the Stream Center, and again, awaiting the 45th President of the United States from Mar-a-Lago. We're
Whatever. I knew Trump wasn't going to be on time, but, you know, he did say 8:30, I thought he said. Maybe he said 8:15. I don't know. We'll just let this go for a minute. I think I actually have to pause it to keep it going because I want to do that. But I think what I've been saying to people all day long is if they can take down a former president, and I don't mean he's a former president, but if they can take down the president, because he's still a president, right? They always say President Obama, they say President Clinton. Remember when Hillary, they thought he was going to win the first dude and all that? So, you know, if they can take down a president, then what chance do you or I have? I mean, really, what chance do we have? We don't have any chances. I mean, if he's got all the money in the world and he still can't stop the persecution, how's anyone else going to be different? People in America have fought all their lives against tyranny. You know, the persecution of the little guy, the Boston Tea Party, civil rights, the women's movement. People, they tend to fight more when you force their hand. And I don't know who the powers are. You know, maybe Miss Hochul, Governor Hochul. I mean, It's kind of odd, right? That the last few governors of New York State have exited under very, let's just say they haven't always been the most honest politicians for the people. And, I mean, Sheldon Silver, anyone? I mean, wasn't his counterpart in prison too? So, like, you have all these people who constantly find ways to manipulate the system, get money, and take our money. And they go find the guy who paid a girl? Okay. I mean, if under this theory, they should all be charged. They should all be charged. Every one of them. Every single one of them. Every time you gave out extra money without demanding accountability. All of them. And listen, Trump's, unfortunately, he's not the standard bearer. I mean, his kids, as they walk in, I mean, let's be honest, there's the most corrupt family in the United States right there. Corruption gets corruption, right? But to say that there's not corruption on the other side in the current White House, that's just a joke. Still no Hunter Biden story, nothing, no parade, no nothing. But, it's just the bigger news to do something we've never done before. So I'm going to shut it off, and we're going to keep going here and see what our president says.
That's really at one of the heart of one of the cases that he's facing indictment on with the Department of Justice. Was his words during January 6th actually inciting violence? And is he guilty as being part of the architect of the January 6th insurrection? So will this be a repeat of that rally?
By the way,
and what will
I'm
it
not
really
sure,
look like? And how will people really
the
react?
word incitement
just
is
like we hope for any
legally
protest to be peaceful, we certainly
actionable.
hope that his call to action is one of peace.
There's freedom of speech. You
And
can't
I
run
just
into a movie
add,
theater
absolutely,
and
this is just step one.
you can't run into a movie theater and scream fire. But incitement, I mean, I watched the Trump speech. I was there, not DC. I was there in my living room watching it. I'm just saying I watched the whole thing because everybody knew something was going to come. And he said a lot of things, and he does, but I clearly don't recall him saying to go break in the White House and beat people up. I don't recall those words from the president. So I'm not really sure those words are anywhere. And there's a lot of acts and conduct after the fact that is completely unacceptable. But I mean, you just have to keep it real. What does the word incitement mean? People incite violence all day long when they say they don't like one group over another group. So here we go.
And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea.
And see, now he's playing the game, isn't he now? So about time to see him play the game. Can Biden do this? Does anyone know if Biden can interact with people? Anybody? Same way? Does he walk the same way?
There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died.
I mean, I'm thinking, if he gets a whack at another run and he actually gets elected, maybe you could leave the boys home this time around. I'm not sure they're helping your cause there. They're not really making you look very proud there as a dad.
Thank you very much, everybody. And we have to save our country. God bless you all. God bless you all. And I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. From the beginning, the Democrats spied on my campaign. Remember that? They attacked me
That they did.
with an onslaught of fraudulent investigations. Russia, Russia, Russia. Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Impeachment hoax number 1. Impeachment hoax number 2. The illegal and unconstitutional raid on Mar-a-Lago, right here.
I agree. He's probably been persecuted a little bit more than anybody
They're lying
else.
to the
Can't
FISA
remember
courts,
anybody else who's been this persecuted.
The FBI and DOJ relentlessly pursuing Republicans. The unconstitutional changes to election laws by not getting approvals from state legislators. The millions of votes illegally stuffed into ballot boxes and all caught on government cameras. And just recently, the FBI and DOJ in collusion with Twitter and Facebook in order not to say anything bad about the Hunter Biden laptop from hell, which exposes the Biden family as criminals and which, according to the pollsters, would have made a 17-point difference in the election result. And we needed a lot
Boom.
less than that.
Boom.
Like
And talk about
16.9.
that's what the conviction's going to be about. Did it
It would
change
have
the
been in our
effect of the
favor.
election?
Not my favor,
I don't know.
our favor, because our country is going to hell. And we remember the 51 intelligence agents who said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. It didn't exist. It was Russian disinformation. Remember that? And that was all confirmed strongly by the FBI when they all knew that it wasn't Russian disinformation. And so much more. Our elections were like those of a third world country. And now this massive election interference.
I don't like the election
never
impugn.
seen
There's
before in
good
our
people
country.
running elections in every state and
Beginning
every
with the
county.
radical
You
left,
just can't
George
say that all the time.
Soros-backed prosecutor
Some
Alvin
shit
Bragg
happens.
of New York,
He's the arbiter of why he lost the
who
last time. It's
campaigned
his
on the
decision.
fact that he would get President Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. This is a guy campaigning.
That is exactly what the
Want to
DA
get
said he was going to do.
President
He was
Trump
going to
at
get
any
him from
cost,
New York
and
City.
this before he knew anything about me, didn't know a thing about me. He was campaigning. As it turns out, virtually everybody that has looked at this case, including rhinos and even hardcore Democrats, say there is no crime and that it should never have been brought.
There is no crime. It's ridiculous. There is no crime. I mean, honestly, he got extorted.
Even
There's no
people
crime.
that
I mean, let's be
aren't big
honest.
fans have said it. They said
No,
this is not
the
the
way
right thing to
you
do.
prosecute people in
It's
America.
an insult
This is
to our
wrong.
country as the world is already laughing at us for so many other reasons, like our open borders, our incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan, where we left behind American citizens, $85 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world. Lost 13
It costs a lot of
magnificent
money to
young
fly it
lives
all
and
back
far
home,
too
too,
many
though. I mean,
to mention that
let's
are
make
so
some more
badly
stuff and
hurt,
then blow that
loss
stuff
of
up. I
arms
never
and
saw the
legs and
issue with that,
facial
but whatever.
obliteration. The most embarrassing
We
time
disable everything when
in
we
our
leave a
country's
military war
history,
zone.
in my opinion. Then our give up on energy independence and even energy dominant. We're going to be dominant within 6 months, more than any other nation times 2. We had this all
Not
just
anymore.
3
We paid
years ago.
$5
Our
for
raging
gas.
crime statistics, if you look in Democrat-run cities, numbers the likes of which we have never seen before. The open threats by various countries of the use of nuclear weapons, something never mentioned or discussed by outside nations during
Is
the
Trump being
administration,
presidential
which
tonight? Is that?
could very well lead
What?
under
Is that a teleprompter?
the Biden
My
administration's
homie, he's
leadership
got a
to an
teleprompter.
all-out nuclear
about time. He's
world
just started
war
playing the part.
III can happen. We're not very far away from it, believe it or not. an economy that has been crippled by the biggest inflation we have seen in more than 60 years, and a military that I used to defeat ISIS in 4 weeks. They said it would take 4 years. 4 weeks. To kill al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, that has now gone woke at the top levels by trying to indoctrinate everyone down to the lowest ranking patriot.
Amen.
But now they have really stepped up their efforts by indicting the 45th President of the United States, who received
Boo.
75 million votes, which is more
Amen.
than
He
any
did half the
sitting
country,
president
nearly half the
in
country.
history
My
of our
friends,
country.
people who are my friends, on the other side too. Yep.
And in the wings, they've got a local racist Democrat district attorney in Atlanta who is doing everything in her power to indict me over an absolutely perfect phone call, even more perfect than the one I made with the
I feel
president
lost to
of
say
Ukraine.
too. Isn't it strange? It's all
It's a
like the.
perfect call.
It's like
This one was
my
more
people. Like
Nobody
when
said,
my people
"Sir,
become
you
so
shouldn't say
powerful.
that." Many people on the phone were hung up in disgust because of something I inappropriately said, because nothing was said wrong. In fact, at the end of the call, we agreed to continue our conversation about election fraud, specifically in Georgia, at a later time. Many people on the phone, including lots of lawyers, nobody found anything wrong with that.
He needs to
perfect
stop
call until
listening
a
to the
book
fringe. I
promotion
don't
deal
understand how a Republican
months
state,
later, all of a
Georgia,
sudden,
hasn't
say, "Yeah,
voted
I
for a
remember
Democrat in 60
making
years.
a
Every
call.
office in Georgia is held by
This
Republicans,
fake
and
case
yet
was
it's
brought
just
only
fraud.
to
It just
interfere with the upcoming
needs to leave it
2024
alone.
election.
Just
And
they
it
got
should be
turned off
dropped
by you because you wouldn't
immediately.
stop with that.
Then you have a radical left lunatic known as a bomb thrower who is harassing hundreds of my people day after day over the boxes hoax. You know, the boxes hoax, as we call it. Just so everyone knows, I come under what's known as the Presidential Records Act, which was designed and approved by Congress long ago just for this reason. Under the Act, I'm supposed to negotiate with NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration.
This
which,
is
as
true.
of this date,
This is very
a
true.
radical left troublemaking organization that red flags the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights as dangerous and triggering. Can you imagine? This is what we have to deal with. But there is no criminality under the Presidential Records Act. That is not what it's all about. We were negotiating in very
He is right again. There is no criminality.
good faith, proper
Bush,
way,
Obama,
in
Clinton,
order to
Nixon,
return
all of
some
them,
or
they
of
all
the
left with
documents
shit.
that I openly and in very plain sight brought with me to Mar-a-Lago from our beautiful White House, just as virtually every other president has done in the past. When FBI and DOJ officials with NARA were here, I told my lawyer to show them the very secure storage room in which they were locked. The FBI's sole request in writing was, could you please put another lock on the door? We immediately complied. It's a lot different than the Biden situation, isn't it? The next thing I know, we were raided by many gun-toting FBI agents who took whatever they wanted, including my passports and medical records. Everybody was in shock. Nobody had ever heard of such a raid before.
They Andrew Tated Trump.
Think that could happen. I immediately thought of the Fourth Amendment that protects against unreasonable search and seizure. But they did it anyway because our justice system has become lawless. They're using it now, in addition to everything else, to win elections. Apparently, they're not looking at me through the view of the non-criminal Presidential Records Act. They came up with a new one. This is a new one. And they're looking at me through the Espionage Act. Think of that. How does that sound? Of 1917.
How can you have
with the
espionage when
penalty
you're the president of the United States?
death.
How?
Even though that has absolutely nothing to do with openly taking boxes of documents and mostly clothing and other things to my home, which President Obama has done, the Bushes have done, Jimmy Carter's done, Ronald Reagan has done. Everybody's done. In fact, Hillary Clinton got rid of 33,000
A server in her bathtub. A server in her bathtub. A server.
This lunatic special prosecutor named Jack Smith, I wonder what it was prior to a change, who others of his ilk say he's even worse than they are, is only looking at Trump, yet Joe Biden took massive amounts more documents, even removed many boxes to Chinatown. You believe that? He's got $10 million from China. Where did that come from? I guess they were banking on Hunter's expertise, and had others stored in unsecured offices in Pennsylvania and strewn all over his garage floor, where his now very famous Corvette is also stored. All over the floor, including classified documents. But that's okay. Perhaps most importantly, he has 1,850 boxes in Delaware, which he is refusing to give up. But isn't that real obstruction? That's obstruction. As president, I have the right to declassify documents, and the process is automatic. If I take them with me, it's automatic. Declassified. Biden was vice president. He had absolutely no right to declassify as vice president.
You have no rights is number 2. Second place. First place loser. That's the way that shit goes.
For him, but it's not going to matter because they don't follow the law, which has very severe penalties.
They sure as hell don't follow the law at all. They never follow the law.
He was a senator, which is absolutely inexcusable. And other senators, including Democrats, are outraged. But he's not being harassed and hounded like the people who work for me are. In fact, they seem to have forgotten about his documents entirely. So many, thousands and thousands. It's okay with him. They like to say that I'm obstructing, which I'm not, because I was working with NARA very nicely until the raid on my home. But Biden is obstructing by making it impossible to get...
I don't think you can obstruct as a president. I really don't. I just think there's a period of time of exit, and some might want that to happen faster than others. But yeah, I don't think you can do that when you're the president. I'm just stupid.
Who also campaigned on, I will get Trump. I will get him. This was her campaign. Never ran for office. I will get him. Her name is Letitia James.
Yeah, she's got
And
problems.
she proclaimed while campaigning, quote, I look forward to going into the office of the Attorney General every single day, suing him, and then going home. Before she knew me. She announced, what is fueling my soul right now is Trump. And that she had her eyes on Trump Tower. Those eyes are focused on Trump Tower. Didn't know the young lady. She even assured her supporters in an election promise that we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
Nancy Pelosi said he'll get his day in court, too.
An illegitimate president. Think of it. With all we did on energy, with all we did on the military, on taxes, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation.
Hey, how many people want to bet that Biden will not be able to have a question and answer response to this whole interview? Hey, Biden, why don't you come out and have a discussion with the press? Let's see where you're at. And if not you, then send out Kamala Harris. And let's hear, like, real facts from you
That of her
folks.
family and his family. Because we're going after his family, and we're going after them hard. This is all before entering office and all before knowing anything at all about me, but she's going to get me. This is why, along with unrelenting crime, so many people and companies are leaving New York. She said that I falsified my financial statements, but in fact we're proving and will prove that my financial statements were substantially more than we submitted, not less. And in all cases have a strong disclaimer clause in them which tells the institutions that may look at that if they want to, not to rely on the state.
By the way, people lend when they want to lend, okay? They just put us peasants through the loan process, but normally people who have a lot of money, it's banks go to them. So I don't really buy the whole fraud thing with the properties and stuff. The point of property is to leverage your property and get as much money as you can from it any way possible. That's the definition of real estate growth.
With us during this period of time. In fact, the banks we're talking about made almost $200 million off Donald Trump, and they liked me very much. We never missed a payment, never got a default notice, had a great relationship with all of them. I don't need banks. I have a lot of cash. I built a great business with my family, built a fantastic business. I have a son here who's done a great job, and I have another son here who's done a great job. And Ivanka and Barron will be great someday.
I wonder how much he had to pay for his kids to show up tonight. He's like, come on, kids, here's $2 million. Come on. All right, $5 million per kid. $10 million per kid. Come on, guys.
So she's suing me over banks that weren't defrauded, when she should be focused on violent crime that's driving people out of the state. This is a persecution, not an investigation. She's put our family through hell. It's cost hundreds of millions of dollars to defend, but our heads are held very, very high. They want to settle the case, but I want no part of that.
Don't settle. Make them take you to
here
trial
we are now.
publicly.
It's where we were today, in a city that was so great just 4 or 5 years
City that never sleeps and actually really likes Trump,
Now
most
we're
of them.
there.
Don't let anyone fool you.
Today as you
That's why he's been there for the last 50 years. That's why his
With a
father
local
was there.
failed
Just
district
is what it
attorney
is.
Charging a former president of the United States for the first time in history on a basis that every single pundit and legal analyst said, there is no case. There's no case. They kept saying, there's no case. Virtually everyone. But it's far worse than that, because he knew there was no case. That's why last week he delayed for a month and then immediately took that back and threw this ridiculous indictment together. Came out today, everybody said, this is not really an indictment, there's nothing here. My lawyers came to me and they said, there's nothing here, they're not even saying what you did. The criminal is the district attorney because he illegally leaked massive amounts of grand jury
Yeah.
For
Grand
which he
jury
should be
proceedings are
prosecuted.
quiet. Very
Or at a
quiet.
minimum, he should resign.
Or be, off
And
the
Alvin
case.
Bragg's wife confirmed a report that claimed her husband has Trump nailed on felonies. She has since locked down her Twitter account. His chief prosecutor, who represented the Democrats and crooked Hillary Clinton in a firm run by Chuck Schumer's brother, Robert, he quit the firm in order to go to work in the DA office.
Did they say Robert?
To get Trump.
Oof.
Can you imagine that?
Terrible.
Hillary Clinton,
Schumer, he should go too.
Democrat firm. Ultimately, he quit as chief prosecutor because Bragg didn't think he had a case. Think of that same guy that brought this ridiculous thing today. Yet during his investigation, this prosecutor named Mark Pomerantz wrote and published a book saying all sorts of privileged things, and has been very strongly reprimanded. He was reprimanded so strongly. I've never seen anything like it. That's probably the end of it. But what he did was probably very illegal. But he was very, very strongly reprimanded. Even District Attorney Bragg was furious with him. They were having a tremendous fight in the office because of it. But hope is never lost, because various prosecutors in the DA's office also quit because they thought President Trump was being treated very unfairly. How about that? Isn't that great? Oh, I love them. I'd like to meet them. I'd like to
Well, let's just call them right into court. That'll help out a lot.
The DA's office even had a web page. Meet the team of executives who have done this to President Trump. That was the title. Isn't that nice? They immediately had to take it down. Meanwhile, overall, crime in New York was up 30% last year. Much more than that the year before, with felony assaults, robberies, and burglaries all up by massive, massive numbers. Not the same place that I know, not the same place that you know. And this is where we are right now. I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family, whose daughter worked for Kamala Harris and now receives money from the Biden-Harris campaign, and a lot of that.
Free Trump.
We recently had
Free
another
Trump.
The same judge
Free him.
told the
Free him now.
man who worked for me for
I'm
many
serious.
years
People, this
that
is
if you
stupid.
admit your guilt, you will be in jail for 90 days. But if you don't, if we go through a trial and you're found guilty, you're going away for 10 years and maybe longer, which for a 75-year-old man with a great family really means life. What the prosecutors and judge did to that man, I will never forget, because it's right out of the old Soviet Union. That's where we are. They said, you say anything about Trump, meaning that's bad, and you won't even have to serve the 90 days. You'll walk free. And they say that to many of my employees.
Yeah, they killed Weinstein, unfortunately. Poor guy.
Lunatic.
Poor guy. None of the Enron people, none of the WorldCom people, none of the Kodak people, none of the Xerox people. Yeah, nobody else went to jail. Just Wiseman, Trump's accountant.
They can't beat us at the ballot box, so they try and beat us through the law. That's the country in which we live, however, right now. The USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. Russia has joined with China. Can you believe that? Saudi Arabia has joined with Iran. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Would have never happened if I were your president.
I have said, I'm fucking getting little weirdos out there.
In Ukraine have happened. All of those lives would be saved. All of those beautiful cities would be standing. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There will be no defeat like that. That will take us away from being even a great power. If you took the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. Incredibly, we are now a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to
I refuse to
interfere
believe
with our
that. We are
elections
not a
and
nation in
law
decline.
enforcement.
We've got some
We
idiots
can't
here.
let that
Well, we are great. We are always great. We are the best place to live in the fucking world. Nobody's going to take that away. Not China, not Russia. None of those, none of
all
those
of
people are
this
free,
being
so
said,
fuck them.
and with a very dark cloud over our beloved country, I have no doubt, nevertheless,
Dark cloud for sure.
we
Dark
will
cloud for sure.
make America great again. Thank you very much. God bless you. and God bless America. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, I thought it was restrained.
From Mar-a-Lago.
Thought he did a good job. I think he made a lot of valid points. You know, I like the tie-in. It's interesting. A lot of the people prosecuting him, and you know, like our attorney general, she's going out and you know, it just, you shouldn't persecute people just because you don't like them. I think the thing for me is, you know, every day people don't like Biden, and for the first couple of years, you know, it was the other side when Trump was there that everybody was saying I don't like Trump, and so it's just natural that when the administration flips, people don't say, you know, that they like the new guy. They usually don't. But this is different. You know, this is different. It's almost like you got a person in the office of the presidency, and he doesn't seem to have the capabilities for himself. He seems just as much of himself as Donald Trump is. I mean, when you're almost 80 and you want to say, hey, you want to have another election and you're going to run again after Nancy Pelosi steps aside. It's just, I just think when you confront the real world and you look at 80 years old versus, I mean, Trump's like 4 years younger, right? It's not the difference, but do you see that? Do you see Biden now? They protect him? They guard him? They don't let him do anything. And when he speaks on his own, he tends to go off on tangents sometimes. So, you know, I don't know if so now it's like, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm probably going to watch some Asman. No, I'm not going to watch some Asman, but the thing is this is what we have to worry about, honestly, is this right here, is because, first of all, I got to see here, Carrie Lake, really. All the crazy women, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, all the crazy women, all the crazy dudes, look at, there goes Michael Lindell. So now all the crazies are going to come out. And my suggestion to Donald Trump this next time around would be, you don't need all these people. Nobody cares about the shrills. I mean, do you guys care about the pillow guy? I mean, I don't care about the pillow guy. But I mean, Carrie Lake, she lost the governor's race in Arizona. She's a journalist. Are we going to do the Sarah Palin thing again? Is that what we're going to do? I mean, we know how that worked out for John McCain, right? Didn't work out pretty well. So maybe you could move over to, like, you know, Kemp from Georgia, you know, more to the middle, away from DeSantis, but, you know, more down the middle with a little bit less bravatos and excitement. You know, I mean, I get this, but see, now this is, so I guess I caught this on I didn't know if I was going to be able to watch it on ABC or any of the big networks, but so I apparently got the YouTube channel where, you know, all the nuts come out behind Trump. So, you know, it doesn't, you know, whatever. It's good. I just think he would do better listening to himself and, you know, make that more of a central piece of who he is. Well, I disappeared. So, anyways, it's been fun tonight. I think that we really need to ask as a country what we're really asking here. I think Governor Hochul needs to come out and make a statement, and we really need to ask if you can charge the president of the United States with 34 felonies from misdemeanors. How many cars are getting stolen in the state of New York and you're doing nothing about? So, I mean, there has to be equal justice, and justice can't be blind. So if you're going to have no justice for anybody, then I don't know how you have persecution of Trump. So I just think that what needs to happen going forward is that maybe they consolidate all these felonies back into a misdemeanor. You know, they offer them a plea bargain with deferred prosecution or some instrument where you get to have that John Doe plea where you get to say you're guilty but you're not guilty, one of those, and maybe he posts a fine double of what he paid Stormy Daniels. So if he paid her $130,000, then maybe the state of New York gets $250,000. Now, I think you can get all that done and you can settle all that before you make this a real issue. Because what are you going to do if you try to indict, well, you've indicted, I apologize, if you try to convict, and even if you get one account and the country votes for Trump, the Supreme Court is just going to come in and stay your order. That's what's going to happen. I mean, you're not going to win, Mr. Braggs. I mean, there's no outcome here that works out well for you. Where are you going to go and have a job after this either? Like, why are you putting everything down here? Shouldn't as a lawyer you be out there trying to help our people get out of jail instead of making people like me? You're turning the other side as an enemies of me. That's what you're doing. Like, if all the other guys didn't do it and you do it, and then people are running around doing crime and they look more like me than Trump, what are you doing? You're fostering, Mr. Braggs, the narrative. You're making your own people's lives harder by this. In essence, your reverse discrimination, it doesn't help us. It doesn't serve us. Why don't you go back and find the officers who choked out Eric Gardner in Long Island for selling cigarettes? Maybe you should go deal with that. I think that's the one case in New York that really has never been resolved in my view, is that a guy died for selling cigarettes and there was no consequence whatsoever. But you're just making us an enemy of the state, Mr. Braggs. Because you don't have to go home and live in the communities with people who are Republicans and people who are Democrats. And even though AOC has a district, she still won it twice because she had to get people who were not of her view in her district to vote for her. She still had to create a majority. And what are you doing? You are making brown people in the United States the bane of existence, something we've been already for the last 200 years. You're just making it worse. And so are you, Miss AG. Why don't you can't find better people to prosecute folks out of everything going on in the world? There's no missing children. I know I'm connected to a family that had a missing child. It took 10 years to find it. So, I mean, what? Like, what are you guys doing? I don't understand why you want to get in power and persecute people. Cory Booker, you get in, you become the mayor, you go arrest everybody your own self. Kamala Harris, you become the district attorney, your first target is your own people. I'm going to be honest with you folks here. I know a lot of Caucasian people. You know what they don't do? They don't eat their own. First thing they do when they get elected, they don't go after their own. They always go after the other guy. But no, not us. So, Mr. Braggs, you keep on with your persecution. And tomorrow morning, the essential workers of New York City have to get up. And they have to go live and work in the world that you're creating for them every day. Where they get on the train and, well, do you agree with Braggs? Is he doing the right thing? Is his persecution of Trump? How do you feel about it? What's your criminal take on it? Did you know last night there were 4 shootings? This is what you cause for us all the time. Miss James, same with you. What for? Why? Why is your life so miserable that all you seek to do is persecute people? That's not how money's created. Your jobs are a result of taxpayer jobs. You should do the job that taxpayers ask you to do. Miss James, instead of forcing everybody to buy a club, which was useless in 1999, folks, the Kias in New York State get stolen, and their genius idea to fix it is the club. That club, that big red bar. Let's see. Can I get let me see if I can get a picture for you folks. The club. Oh, did I spell that wrong? Auto defense. Hold on. What's going on here? Dear God. See, you can't even search anything anymore without being so specific. Okay, here we go, folks. Here we go. Okay, you see this? So, you see this, the club, 1999, guys. So basically, you put it on your steering wheel, and when folks get in the car, even if they can hotwire it, because that's what they had to do back in the 2000s and 90s, is they had to hotwire your car. I had to be kind of smart up here. You couldn't turn the steering wheel because when you turn it, the club would make it inoperable. It would hit something within the car. But the problem was it was genius for about a year or two. But then people who stole cars for a living realized that all you had to do was hacksaw the middle of the metal, and you could cut it off. And once you cut it off, you could just slide the 2 parts out, right? So fast forward to 2023, and Kia and Hyundais are being stolen because of the instructions that are being broadcast on TikTok. And the local leadership in New York State's idea has been to purchase clubs for people and rail against Hyundai and Kia as being evil Darth Vader companies of the world, where the AG could have simply stepped in with her ability to subpoena and do real lawsuits and maybe just forced an over-the-air programming update that would have resolved things much quicker. But what happens is when all these cars get stolen, there's so many, hundreds and hundreds in all cities in New York State, the owners, their insurance only pays for the car to get repaired. It doesn't pay for the pound fees. It doesn't pay for the towing. It doesn't pay for all the extra damage that the insurance doesn't cover. And so here you have a solution. And if you don't like Korean cars, I mean, if you don't want Hyundai and Kia here no more, then say, let's not let you in here. But if, to say that they're bad car companies because they made a car that Americans want that allow you to turn the vehicle on with an app in your home. So if you're in the middle of New York in the middle of winter and you don't want to freeze, it sounds like a great idea. Like auto start, holy shit. So just maybe the software is susceptible to programming. And maybe that's one of those things where when you look at the reality of that, maybe that does come from TikTok in China, right? Because, I mean, I don't know a whole lot of people in America who can decipher the algorithm to hook a USB cable up to the car to steal it. I don't know anyone who has that knowledge set to have learned that on their own. So that was this a little bit different back in 1999 when you were a criminal. You actually had to learn how to steal the car if that was your take. So, and I think Nicolas Cage made a movie about that. So my point is, I think we need to just solve the Trump issue. Force a plea bargain where there's no a violation, a traffic ticket, and stop this dog and pony show, because you can't stack the jury. It only is going to take one. And so the only way you can get a jury to be stacked even more is if you create a questionnaire that's so long and so miss out of place that the Supreme Court once again is going to question the wisdom and the validity of such a questionnaire if the sole intent of the questionnaire is to knock out pro-Trump jurors. So this is why you overstepped your bounds, Mr. Braggs. You should be the district attorney of New York City, because hence you were elected to be the district attorney of New York City. In reality, maybe Miss James should have been the one. The attorney general should have been the one to bring the charges to Trump. But you chose, as a district attorney of a city, it would be like Rochester, New York, suddenly convicting the president of the United States. It's just mean. So I wonder then, does that mean that all the red states now are going to find trumped up charges on Joe Biden, and their district attorneys are going to start issuing warrants for the sitting current president of the United States? Is that your intent? Because shame on you. Tip for tat, buddy. You know, when one side does something, the other side is bound to do it just as bad and take it 2 steps worse. So right now, the Democrats, you feel like you're winning or whatever you think you're doing. But, you know, when the shoe's turned around, it's going to be a 10x factor on us. So, Mr. Braggs, first of all, maybe you could help the local jurisdictions in your state, like other cities, figure out how to come up with a better solution than the club in 2023 for cars that get stolen with smartphones. Interesting. But in the meantime, I'm Rob the accountant, and I think you should just settle this down to a violation and ask Mr. Trump to pay a fine. And then I also think you should go and let out Mr. Wiseman from jail. You know, he didn't snitch. He didn't do anything. He followed the directive of his employees, his employer, and his company. He did the same thing Kodak did up here in Rochester, New York, where all their executives bankrupt the pensions of hundreds of thousands of employees. So this idea that, you know, one is holier than thou is just ridiculous. It's not true. It's incorrect. And you should just stop it before it goes too far. I entirely believe, and I'm here to tell you that I think you just made it so that Trump is the 47th president of the United States. Because I don't see how President Biden, he's got to come out and answer. I mean, I just taped a 1-hour news conference. 1 hour, that's 60 minutes. 60 minutes without talking points. That's the Biden challenge today. A response to what Trump said about political persecution, about Hunter Biden's laptop, about the money Hunter receives from China, about the balloon that spied on us that was shot down too late. I mean, these are questions that should be asked, but I don't think anyone's asking for you to be arrested. So President Biden, I think it's time for you to step in. I think this was your game plan anyways, to be honest with you. I told a few people this. Step in, spare the guy, even though they're state charges. Work your magic. Look like the elder statesman. Pardon Trump so you can run against him. But I don't think it's going to work. And I don't. I think that the nation as a whole is demanding another direction. And you have the ability to allow the field of Democratic candidates to mature and run against President Trump. But if you intend to be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, and you intend to move the nominating process for being a Democratic president to South Carolina, I don't know. I know my friends and I, we'll just probably won't vote, or that we'll have to go out and vote for Trump. So I voted for him the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. But if my choice is him and you the third time, yeah, I'm going to go with him. I'm Rob the Accountant. Hope you guys all have a good night.